Welcome to the Beasts of the NFC East podcast. I am your host, Sean Gnitzcavich, with my co-host, Jeremy Goode. Jeremy Goode, what is good?
A lot's good. A lot's good for the NFC East, unfortunately. Not just the Eagles, but some big wins from some teams. It depends on how big the Giants win is in ultra respect as a season long. But three teams won. Obviously, not every team could win because two teams faced off.
Mm-hmm.
Good week for the division. Great week for the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, some history made both in the Commanders' loss and in the Cowboys' continuing to stomp awful teams, but relatively legendary win. And probably, I would say, the best game so far of the season in the Bills and Eagles game.
Yes.
Especially with stakes on the line, Eagles continuing their dominance, Bills maybe being out of the playoffs altogether,
right,
and just coming down to the wire with another Josh Allen overtime loss.
Yeah, it was a great game for both sides, and probably the best all year. It's interesting too because it feels like we're coming off the best game between Kansas City and the Eagles from last week in some ways, and then you have this week. So,
and another good week because you guys are in the gambit. Because next week you guys are against the Niners, so it's just this is the where we see what the Eagles are made of, and so far they are passing almost every test. So
yes.
Yeah. And the Giants won the Pooper Bowl, which, for those of you who are rooting for the tank, I know I am, but at the same time, guess what, guys? We still have the 6th pick in the draft, and so we moved down 1 pick, and we're in playoff. We're 2 games out of the playoffs right now, so look at that.
That's also not where we're going to – you can't have it both ways, you know.
Oh, I know.
Right.
You know what? It's fun. It's, this is the first game I saw in person with my parents and my family, this season. And, not in the stands, but just, watching it with my family. And my dad doesn't give a fuck about tanking. He wants to see the Giants win, especially playing the Patriots and all these Patriots fans, growing up. Like true Giants fans, they still want to see the win. I know 10-7. We'll get into it. But anyway,
the Giants certainly have New England's number over the last 2 decades.
Yeah. We got it. It was fun, Even if you're rooting for a tank, like anybody who's complaining after a win, especially a win where there was good and there was fun to be had during it, it's
offensively. I don't know about that, but yes,
just suck it up. Well, I mean, I wouldn't fault you for not watching that game, Jeremy. But let's get into it. We'll start off with the first game of the week, Thanksgiving. Nice little turkey bowl. The Commanders go to Dallas for their annual Thanksgiving game, and they lose 10-45.
Mm-hmm.
This game, I think we have to start with the obvious. Deron Bland breaks NFL history for 5 pick sixes in a single season. And it was awesome to watch, watching Jim Nantz call history, literally saying, this is for history. You guys are watching NFL history, as he brings back a 63-yard pick six. It's it's not a fluke to have 5 of them in one season, obviously, but his pick sixes have been awesome. I don't care if you're a Cowboys fan or not. He has had some awesome interceptions. Do you care to comment on Deron Bland being not so bland?
Yeah, I like that, by the way.
Yeah.
It's impressive. I don't want to say it's not impressive. It's impressive in its own way. I think pick sixes are kind of fluky also because it depends on where you catch the ball on the field. It depends where everybody else is that you can't control.
Mm-hmm. But 63 yards, and he made 2 people miss, and it was
but they were epic. Kind of. If I remember that, it was close to the goal line where he made the miss. So he wasn't even no one was near him for 50 yards. I think an offensive tackle was able to dive. Maybe not, but yeah, I just find I don't know. Maybe I'm just a hater. Maybe it's just the Cowboys. I feel like I would say this about other teams too. Even the Eagles. I think interceptions are big. I think it's impressive that he has 6
Yeah.
interceptions already at this point. I think that's
Right.
very
No, he
impressive.
has seven on the season,
Right, seven.
five
Yeah,
pick sixes. Yeah.
it just seems weird that like I don't know. Maybe it just seems like he's doing it so easily where it's like it's got, but like several of them have been where like games have been put away too. A lot of them has been. I think most of his interceptions have been against bad teams when he plays good receivers. He doesn't perform well. Eagles were one of them. He gave up 2 touchdowns. They gave
Yeah.
up around a 40-yard touchdown to Devontae Smith. I if I were so inclined, I would look more into it. But
Yeah.
they,
Well,
they
I actually
the
have a
pick six
stat if
also
you want to.
happened when they were up like 35 too. So
Yeah. But
I
they're on
don't know.
plan stats because this is the thing. Like when
Yeah,
Trayvon Diggs had 11 interceptions that season, which by
right.
the way, I'm pretty sure
Good
Duran
point.
Bland is on pace for more than 11 interceptions still. Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes,
not to
probably more.
mention the
Yeah,
historic pick sixes. Um,
yeah,
but Trayvon Diggs was like terrible aside from those interceptions,
right.
like letting up huge plays. Duran Bland, passer rating of 36.9, but that has to do with the interceptions. 52% completion percentage when thrown to. So like it's 50-50 when he's
Yeah,
getting thrown to. Only averages 11 yards per reception, which isn't that bad. Like, I mean, it's a first down, but in the grand scheme of things, not terrible. And
right.
he's only given up 350 yards in the year and a
Yeah, I did.
91.2 coverage grade by PFF, which
Yeah,
is
I got
like
I,
elite top of the league.
numbers wise. Those last few are very good.
Yeah.
I think, and not to interrupt, but I think that I would have to look at who are the quarterbacks who's been throwing to him, who are the wide receivers he's been covering, how have those stats compared when he's
Mm-hmm.
faced good ones to
Yeah.
when he's faced, because this is a point that I will also, big stat,
Yeah.
the Cowboys don't have a win against a team over 500 this year. And we're very deep into the season. I
It's true.
think that a lot of these like accolades, they're good, but they're coming against really bad teams. So there's some credit here, credit there, but like grand picture, I think that there's reasons why this is happening because of the competition, and I'd want to see more against like when they're playing better teams, when they're losing to teams like
Above
San
500.
Francisco.
Which is funny
Yeah,
because if they beat the Seahawks next week, the Seahawks are 500, I believe.
right. So they're
So
kind of
they'll
punished,
beat another losing
no
team.
doubt. They're
Which is,
punished.
yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, so in some ways I find it impressive. In other ways, I think that their schedule just has been very favorable. They've scored a lot. Their offense has looked really good. I'll get into this game a little bit with Washington. It looked
Yeah.
great in the fourth quarter. We know their MO where they beat up on very bad teams. Give them credit for doing that. Some teams don't do that,
Mm-hmm.
and they have to either sweat it out or maybe they'll lose or maybe they'll win, but it's not as comfortable. So that's clicking for them. But I think in all seriousness, like the game was scoreless, I think, in the first quarter. And then Dallas was
Scored
able
at
to
the
put,
end. Yeah, they scored.
right.
Dowdle scored at the end of the first.
And
Yeah.
Dallas was able to push away sort of in the second. You felt like it was getting away in the second quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously the fourth quarter, 25 unanswered points by Dallas to Washington 0, of course.
Yeah.
So
But it was
they
still, I mean, it was only a 10-point deficit
go into the fourth,
for,
right.
yeah, for like two quarters. I mean, like,
With the Washington team that didn't really have any form of offense. I thought they looked better in the first half, but still not great. Yeah, they yeah,
it's,
they're winning big. They're not beating teams over 500, and they've also just played a lot of really bad teams. Can't there's something to it on both sides to say the least, but they definitely smacked Washington.
and this is, I don't know if you saw this stat. It's been floating around. I've seen it a few different times, but
Mm,
Optus stats entering today, NFL teams were combined 57-0 over the last 25 regular season games. That's 25 years too worth of games. When so undefeated when having 100 over 100 rushing yards, over 250 passing yards, over 35 minutes of time of possession, which is pretty crazy. That means that the Commanders had the ball for more than half the game,
yeah,
and no more than 25 penalty yards. and no more than one turnover, which the one turnover was a pick six. But still,
Right.
yeah, they were undefeated when putting up those stats, which sound great. And they lost by 35 points. Like
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
that is crazy, man.
It's an interesting point. I think that just shows like what an outlier kind of game that is for that, like because they got smoked. But yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, you look at it, Sam Howell, like the game plan is the same on offense, and
Yeah,
their offense,
throw it
only put
47
up 10
times.
points. Yeah,
Right.
but finally, Jack Del Rio. I think that's probably one of the bigger storylines too. Jack Del Rio. It was the writing's been on the wall. Finally, is fired. The
Yes.
Commanders have like the worst defense. I actually looked. I saw another stat since week 7 in EPA per play. I believe the Commanders are second to last for defense, but the Cowboys are first in defense since week 7. So
Really?
yeah, an EPA per play. So
Oh.
yeah,
Okay.
I don't know. Like that. That's more. More than just like points given up and whatnot. That's like what
Yes.
should not be, and what's fluky. Uh, yeah, overall, Dak Prescott too. I think we have to say like he's playing the worst defense in the Commanders, but
Right.
I know I was listening to PFF and they said that this is one of the best games graded by a quarterback in terms of passing. But Dak Prescott, 4
I guess.
touchdowns, no
Yeah.
interceptions, 330 yards. Like he's eating turkey legs before the game's even over.
Yeah. They were throwing the ball late into the fourth quarter too, which the last touchdown to Turpin, I thought. I don't know. I wouldn't have had Dak in or any of the stars in at that point, but they compile towards
they
the end.
wanted the turkey legs because the
That's
Turpin
right.
one that was the Turpin turkey leg right there.
Well, the story we talked about this yesterday, but the
Yeah.
story was they were going to do it when they went up 30-0,
Mm-hmm.
and then they just figured to score another touchdown.
Yeah, they're like let's
Kind of
see if we
losing
got one
mentality.
more.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
way to beat up on the little guy, but
yeah. Well, hey, little guy Kevontae Turpin is a little guy, so
that's true. That is true. He's quick too, but
yeah,
yeah, they don't. The Giants and Washington just don't seem like they match up to Dallas well. Besides like a talent thing, because like talent, yeah, sure, they're not going to win most likely, but like both teams just get like smacked around. Like personnel definitely is. I don't know what else, but there's something else to it where they just don't match up with Dallas.
Well, it's interesting because the Commanders played both very tight games with you,
Yes,
and is this their second meeting with the Cowboys, or is this their first?
that's a
I
good
think
question.
I think this is their first. But let me double check. But like they walloped. Yeah, yeah. No, this is their first meeting.
Got it.
But yeah, I mean, this is just looking through. Like this is what the Cowboys do, and then you see the reverse against the 49ers. So this is why the Cowboys aren't getting the respect because they haven't, like you
Right,
said, they haven't.
and rightfully so. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, record wise, good. There's and they're still getting credit for being one of the top teams in the NFC
yeah.
in the conference, even in the NFL too, as a whole. But there's a reason why you can't hype this up too much. It's fair. It's fair for both sides. You know, what you win, you'll get credit. You keep on beating up on teams like this, and then losing to teams that are probably better than you, or at least at your level.
Mm.
You have to take a step back. So they'll have another shot. Seattle's, I don't know. I think Seattle's an iffy team right now. They don't seem that good, but they'll have the Eagles next week. Not
Yeah,
this week. But the week
2 weeks
after.
from now. Yeah,
So they'll get another shot,
yeah.
nonetheless, in Dallas.
And then they also have the Dolphins game. I think Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. Who
Yeah,
that's the same narrative is that the Dolphins only beat awful teams. So
right.
that'll be fun to see who comes out of that one. Commanders side though, Sam Howell still not getting sacked as much. He only got sacked 4 times, but
Yeah,
still 4 times is still nothing to brag about. Especially on the other side, the Commanders got 0. Curtis Samuel, the first Washington wide receiver with 100 yards this year.
wow.
Yeah, first Washington, which happened I know for at least two other teams. The Giants got their first 100-yard receiver this year, and the Chiefs got their first 100-yard wide receiver. Travis Kelce has broke 100, but
Right.
Rashee Rice. So, but yeah, Curtis Samuel, 9 receptions for 100 yards. It's
Before,
crazy that Terry McLaurin hasn't
yeah.
eclipsed 100 yards this season, though.
Especially because Hal's been good for like he's been good for like 5 games, 6 games this year where he's surpassed 300, 325, 340 yards in the air.
I
It's
believe
great
he's
for like
still. I mean, he's either one or two in the league right now in
they
passing
have
yards.
yeah, they have a lot of weapons, which is why they should be winning more, but
Yeah.
they're just not good enough. They're a bad team.
Yeah. So that's the other thing. I think we discussed this yesterday too. We were
Yeah.
hanging out. But I think they're going to let Ron Rivera finish out the year and finish on its own terms. And
Yeah.
we'll
I think
see if that means that he's going to kind of give more. I was reading an article that like the Commanders players themselves want more Eric Bieniemy
yeah.
in the offense, which like I mean, their defense is their biggest issue, but I mean,
Mhm.
scoring 10 points, yes, against a tough Dallas defense, but
Their
like,
offense, it's like there's something up. They need to look into their offense too. Honestly,
yeah,
yeah, I don't think it would make much sense to bring a Bieniemy now with this team, have them lose, and then you're like, well, where do we go from here because we're losing with Bieniemy. Now, someone who's a deeper thinker would say, give him a chance next year to be the head coach with his own system, his own team, more of his type of plays, players, etc. But uh, it still would be alarming if you bring him in now and you essentially be setting up to hit him up to fail. And then you're like, well, I guess we have to go with this. So it wouldn't be great either way. So yeah, I think Rivera finishes it out. He's been a coach in the NFL for decades. He's not that good anymore. What made him good was his Riverboat Ron stuff, where he would take risks and win games that way. A little bit in Carolina and Washington. Doesn't seem to have that touch anymore. I don't think he'd ever really be a head coach in the NFL at this point, at this stage, at this age for him. But I think he'd be on the sideline somewhere, being a coach, helping out in some way.
yeah. And going into the tank stuff here, Washington moves up to fifth with the Giants
Yeah,
win. Chicago won yesterday, though. So,
wild.
and we'll see how that continues moving forward. But I mean, Washington with a top 5 pick, they could end up with somebody like Maserati Marv. You don't know. Like it's something to look at moving forward in the season. But I mean, do I think that the Commanders are going to finish winless? I think that they could probably squeeze one or two. I mean, but
It would be tough to look at Washington right now and say, you know what we need to add is Marvin Harrison. And actually, in some ways, it would
they
make
probably
sense.
need that
That's
big
the issue.
tackle.
They need so like I probably shouldn't say that. It actually probably would make sense for them to add someone like that at
But
5, especially
but
because I
they
don't think
have
he's
the
that well.
weapons. I mean, that's the thing. That's probably like
Yeah,
there is probably one of their.
but it's kind of like the Giants from last year. Don't get me
Hmm,
wrong. Washington's weapons this year are much better than the Giants' weapons last year.
hmm.
But it's kind of like the Giants last year, where like they had productive receivers, but none of them were like that good. So even though Daniel Jones had his own limits, he had some limits throwing to those guys in some ways too. That's the way I kind of look at Washington. Again, much better than the Giants receivers group of receivers last year, which is a testament to I guess both teams in their own way.
Hmm.
Um, but if you add a guy like Marvin Harrison to like Washington, it's like, okay, you're putting a star on this team. You then have him, McLaurin.
He's also like McLaurin, and this year I think he'll still probably get to 1,000. I think he'll find a way
Yes.
to get to a
And
thousand
then I
yards.
guess
But yeah,
Dotson maybe permanent slot. I don't
yeah,
know the deal with Curtis Samuel and his contracts. I
yeah.
was maybe move on from him. Then
Hmm.
you sort of have I think that's a better offense than what this is, like by a good bit too. But yeah, like I mean, like you said, it's going to be hard to prioritize a wide receiver for Washington with every like issue they have going on with their
Yeah.
defense.
And their
They're
offensive line is like
yeah,
their offensive line needs a total rehaul aside from Sam Cosmi, who's playing pretty decently well.
yeah.
But you know, I believe he's still at guard. I mean, he has that tackle versatility, but like that
Yeah,
shouldn't be
there's nothing like getting your franchise quarterback, or at least guy you think who could be your franchise quarterback, uh, a left tackle for the next decade.
Yeah, no, I think
So
it definitely
yeah,
helps out. Jonathan Hankins had 2 sacks, ex Giant, respect. Micah Parsons had a sack and a half, uh, which still was on the back burner to the Stars. Deron Bland, Brandon Cooks, dude. Brandon Cooks is like he's finding his stride. Like this is something
yes,
that will be important for the Cowboys is having Brandon Cooks back in like essentially what everybody thought he would be when the Cowboys traded for him this offseason, which
right.
would be like another like a pretty decent wide receiver too. 72 yards, another touchdown. You know, and I think it's good and like I mean Dak spread the ball around like he had what 1, 2, 3, 4, 11 pass catchers. He got the ball to.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Cooks has been on Cooks. He's been pretty bad overall this year as a whole. Um, he's been bad against bad teams. But also it'll be interesting to see how he compares to when he plays good teams. The
Mm-hmm.
good teams he played, San Francisco, he had 1 catch for 7 yards. The other team, Eagles, he had 1 catch from 7 yards. When they played Arizona and lost, obviously worst team in the NFL, but still lost to that team. He had 2 catches, 17 yards. So
Mm.
yeah, he's turning the corner for sure. We'll see if he can be continue to be implemented with Dak going forward, especially against a little tougher competition.
Yeah, and honestly, too, in some of the games where they've really exploded, I feel like they've gotten Cooks the ball more. So
Yeah,
maybe moving forward, McCarthy sees it as more of a game plan, as he should. I mean, like as great as CeeDee Lamb has been all season, and he's been a top 5 receiver for sure.
yeah.
Um, you still need to take a little pressure off him. So Cooks is good for that. Anything else you want to get into for this game?
Would have been nice if Washington could have stolen the game. They played okay in the first 10-ish minutes, which I
Yeah,
think if it's a shutout at that point, I think it's a good sign. And they just, just not a good team.
yeah.
They're just bad.
I mean, they're looking for next year, and that's
They
fair.
are. I think it's wild to have that much talent and to be relative talent and to be that awful. I don't know if we've probably seen it before, but I just can't think of a team that's had.
Think about the Chargers right now too. Like the Chargers also have
Yeah,
4 wins.
yeah, that's true.
Have 4 wins. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's crazy. Like
yeah,
I mean, there's
it
just
happens, I guess.
yeah, and also that's like from defensive failings too. Like Brandon
Yeah, coach,
Staley, Jack Del
coach.
Rio. I mean, yeah, it's just yeah, it's I don't. The thing is, like, there's not like one thing. Like, I don't see like them being one piece away. Like, they're gonna give Sam Howell another shot next year.
Right.
You got the offensive weapons, but like their secondary has been awful all year, and then you have no real premier edge rushers now. Like, I think this is the same thing that we said last week, but like
Yeah.
it's just as a Washington fan, you got to see. I mean, they could definitely make some big splashes in free agency. They cleared up some room, have some draft picks. So we'll see. We'll see where they go from there. As for the Cowboys, I think even though they haven't beaten a team with a winning record, I say they are like unanimously number 3 in the NFC right now.
That's fine. I would agree. I think it helps. Well,
Especially because the Lions were probably going to be number 3,
right. I guess
but
yeah.
they've just like they have
We've had
gotten
two bad
robbed a
weeks.
few times.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, the Cowboys got walloped by the 49ers, but they played tough against the Eagles. So
Yeah.
I I definitely hold them to a higher regard than the Lions right now. And if you
Sure.
had, which the Lions and the Cowboys play later this season, and that's one that I'm watching too, because that'll probably have some playoff implications for both teams.
It might. Yeah.
Yeah,
What is that game? Is that the last game of the season?
I believe yes.
Could be interesting.
Uh, yeah, second to last game, second to
Okay.
last game of the season. Yeah. All right, you want to get into the New York Football Giants?
Sure, you start off your team.
All right, so the Pooper Bowl took place at 1 o'clock Eastern Time when the New England Patriots traveled to MetLife Stadium, and the New York Football Giants, with a missed 30-yard field goal at the end, win 10-7. Tommy DeVito, New Jersey sensation. They're already talking about making Hallmark movies about him as the Jersey kid. They played the Sopranos theme song as he came up, and I believe they also played it for his touchdown, his one and only touchdown, the one and only touchdown scored by the Giants. But hey, we still came out with with a win, but kind of a loss too, because we're moving down in the draft. Like, I know, like, there's people that believe we can make a playoff push. Would it be fun? Yes. Do I think that we could beat the Packers? Yes. Do I think that we could beat the Rams and the Saints? Yes. That'd give us 3 more wins. That'd be 7. Could we
What
pull
about
off a victory against the Eagles? Maybe. Like, I'm just saying, there is a
maybe what
world.
if you subtract 40 points from the Eagles?
Hey, dude, last game of the season, you guys probably have that thing clinched.
I don't know. It's looking well, yeah, maybe, but it
We're,
could be tight.
as I said in the beginning, we're sixth in the draft right now. We're picking 6th in the draft, and we're
Yes,
like tied with a million teams with 4 wins. So like one more win could move us from like 6 to whatever, and
right.
staying at 4, we could move up to I don't know. I think 4th is where the Bears are right now.
Uh-huh.
But we're two games back from the playoffs right now. It's kind of crazy, and like, I'm not gonna lie, like, the teams that are ahead of us, I don't think are. I think the Giants really hit rock bottom early in the season, so that people, like, everybody believes the Giants are that much trash. I'm not gonna lie, like, our offense has been pretty horrific, but our defense,
Yeah.
past 2 games, we've had 3 interceptions 2 games in a row against
Well, you've
pretty
also
bad
played really,
quarterbacks.
really, really bad teams too.
Yeah, yeah. I'm curious to see, like, and this isn't even about making a playoff push, but how the Giants play, like, the Packers next week, who just had a great game
Right.
against the Lions, who are like a NFC
Who's also a
favorite.
bad,
Yeah,
yeah, who's also a bad team, in my
yeah.
opinion. Yeah,
Um,
I mean,
it's
yeah,
it's serious. I'm curious to see Tommy DeVito though. Like, Tommy DeVito had a nice touchdown. I know he had another brilliant passer rating. He had 3 explosive plays, and Jalen Hyatt was the Giants, as I alluded to earlier, the Giants' first 100-yard receiver this year, and that's the one thing that I really was looking forward to. Like I said, if we're gonna win, I want to see some good from our future, and seeing Jalen Hyatt explode like that is fun. It's fun to see, and like have these amazing explosive plays. 5 receptions, 109 yards. I believe he had 3 of over 20 yards in that as well. So I'll let you give some insight onto this though.
yeah. I think we saw this was just a game we knew going into really, really bad teams, and one of them had to win. Or, of course, you could have had a tie, but most likely one of them's going to win.
Hmm.
I thought the Giants from the start were going to win because New England's just absolutely in shambles with everything going on, with coaching to quarterback to overall talent. There's just not much. They're truly bottom 3 maybe in the NFL. They're just awful. And there's something about the Giants where they're at home defensively. They've been pretty good this year. I think that they've also, you know, been able to take care of some bad offenses as well. But last week, the week before against Washington, Tommy DeVito looked good. It looked like that kind of play would be enough for whatever the Giants would have to do against a team like Washington or New England.
Yeah.
I think this week against or last game against New England, he did similar to how he played against Washington.
Hmm.
Gave you enough throwing yards, uh, was accurate enough with the football in terms of percentage completions from what you'll expect from him. Um, Made a few plays, uh, and didn't put the team in any really liability. And he did enough. Listen, 10 points isn't enough in the NFL to win games, but when you play bad teams, it seemed like he just did enough to win. Saquon Barkley didn't really have much going on. Um, I guess you'll take. It's weird. It's just a weird situation for the Giants where I think it's nice because like if you don't like, I don't love any of the quarterbacks in this upcoming draft. I like Caleb Williams a
I
lot.
I do. I think. Well, I mean, I don't love all of them for premier picks, and I think
Right.
if you're trading up for anybody, it should be Caleb Williams, or you're only trading up in a later round. So
Right. But I think that with the NFL these days, it does. There's no such thing as like a quarterback quote unquote falling. It's either they're going to be picked top 10 or shortly after. And I don't really love. For me, I don't love anybody that much. So the Giants, they can maybe not take a quarterback and take a risk like they did. I thought when they took Daniel Jones in 2019, maybe focus on other parts of the team. And so, yeah, it's weird because they're collecting these wins the last few weeks, even though they're not very good, and they have a quarterback who I don't ever really think he expected to play in the NFL. But
yeah, that's the thing. There's Giants fans right now, and I can't really tell sarcasm on the
yeah,
internet in the comment
yeah,
section. So there has been some news in regards to our future, especially going into the bye week. I feel like that's when teams, especially teams that are looking for the future, like the Giants, that's when like the GM, we get all those questions. Going into this game, there's a huge storyline that the Giants, where Jay Glazer reported that Wink Martindale and Brian Dable are fighting, and there's a good
yes,
chance that Wink doesn't make it through the season. Which I like. Wink has been one of the bright spots, I think, of this Giants team. I think that like his defense is fun to watch with all the blitzes and all like the crazy blitz schemes. The man defense. So this is a thing. He actually shifted to more of a zone. Like he's still Wink, he still does the man, but since he
yes.
shifted after those Xavier McKinney comments, like we have been like on top. Like I said, we have 6 interceptions in the past
Which
two
you can
weeks.
also afford to do when you play
Yeah.
bad quarterbacks, a bad team.
Yes.
But
Yeah,
go
100%.
on.
But
Yeah,
Xavier McKinney too. Like Xavier McKinney since then, I know that he made some comments and I was kind of like, iffy about him continuing, but he's been playing like lights out. Had his
yeah,
first pick of the season this game. At the end of the game, Brian Dable said the only thing we fight about is the last pizza, which is weird because Adoree Jackson said the same thing. The only thing they'd fight about is the same piece, like last piece of pizza, which makes
I
you
feel like
think:
it's better
is
though.
that like media training, or is
Yeah,
that like, or are these guys just fighting over the last slice of pizza all the time in the locker room? Like, I don't know.
listen, it's probably the best region of the country for pizza, and I guess if the Mara family or whatever isn't ordering enough post game, that's an issue for sure. But
Yeah,
the only reason, yeah, I mean, not to interrupt, but I think the only reason I could see uh, Wiggindale not being there next year would be if a team snatched him for their own head coach, which I could see. Um, but yeah, I don't see. I
especially
think
with all the coaches that I feel like there's going to be a lot of firings this year.
yes, there.
So
It seems like every year there's a lot, and then plus one or two.
yeah,
Um, yeah, it seems weird that I feel like Dable and Wink would be on the same side, and they would sort of understand the situation they're in this year at this point of the season. But I heard that report, and it was weird.
so
It,
Jay Glazer is supposed to always be like top notch, knows all the insights with the Giants, but
it's solid.
yeah, Dable gave Wink Martindale the game ball, and that also might just be like
That could be the troll.
catering. Yeah, but I mean,
But the defense also
you held him to
played.
7. You got 3
Yeah,
interceptions. And Kayvon forced a fumble, but that was recovered by the Patriots, so it wasn't really like it's interesting, but nothing really to note. But Bobby Okereke, like I think, is playing towards being an All-Pro linebacker. Like
hmm
he had I think it was a 55-yard interception, and he could have taken it to the house, but Isaiah Simmons was like trying to block him, and he like essentially tackled him, like ran into him.
that's happened
Which
before
which is
with
like
other
okay,
teams.
good for you, Isaiah. I feel like
All
Isaiah
these
Simmons
guys,
is what's up.
yeah, I've seen this before. And it's like these guys like unnecessarily get in there, like just walk like just get out of the way or like try to make like blocks up. Like don't go around. Yeah, don't
Yeah,
be
he was
around the
like
person
running
with the
side by
ball.
side with him, like
Right,
almost holding, and it tripped him up. But
right.
yeah, yeah, Bobby Okereke, dude, just yeah. And I actually I do have these, like, this is like one of the best seasons he's had by, it is the best season he's had by far. But
How
I
long did
also
you
have
sign
some,
him in the off season?
I would say is definitely the best signing of the off,
How
like
many
for
years did you give him?
4 years. So
Okay.
yeah, and I when that happened, I remember me included. I was like, wow, I think we paid him more than T.J. Edwards, who was like T.J. Edwards was much more
Yeah, he went cheap.
coveted, but I don't know what T.J. Edwards is up to this season. But Bobby Okereke, yeah, so he's sixth in the league for tackles with 113, third with 70 solo tackles. He's got 9 tackles for loss, which I know I said the other week. I think he was at like 15 or 16 for like the most tackles for loss or for no gain. Um, yeah, 4 forced fumbles. I saw somewhere else he had 6, but I think it is 4. I think he recovered 1 or 2.
Mhm.
8 pass deflections, which is tied for first among all linebackers, and the 4 first fumbles is tied for second in the league, and then 2 interceptions, like, which is the most he's had in his career. But like,
Yeah,
he is playing out of his mind, and I know that there's a lot of great linebackers in this league, but I think he's definitely, I would put him top 5, no doubt, right now.
yeah. I doubt he goes all pro because of the
Fred
Giants'
Warner
record.
and the Giants, yeah.
I think you see it rarely where you have someone who's an all pro on a team that's just record wise is that bad. But yeah, he's been a force for the middle of the field for the Giants for
Yeah.
sure.
Kayvon got another half sack. Yeah, it the Giants. Tommy DeVito is maybe like he's going to go down in history as one of the most memorable Giants quarterback with the jersey
Yeah.
juice and all the chicken cutlets, and he's like the most memed quarterback. Um,
What was that thing? The high five?
oh yeah, the like I think it was Ed Valentine who's like I love it. He's like one of the most senior Giants beat reporters, and he's great. But he's like, what is that? The high five? Oh, it's a high. Hmm. Hmm. I mean, just I love it. I love it. I mean, I think all this hype is literally like just the Giants trying to sell more tickets, which like it's working because I wanted to go to this game. I thought it was going to be, since we're both awful teams, it'd be cheap, but I think the cheapest ticket was like $150. And when we went to the Commanders Giants game, like with Jake Fromm as
Welcome
quarterback
to New
years
York.
back, I
Yeah.
think there was like $15 tickets for
Yeah.
that game. Yeah, Mac Jones is probably done as a Patriots starter for sure.
Yeah.
And honestly, if Dexter Lawrence was playing, I think that we could have shut them out. But Dexter Lawrence was out, and Ramondre Stevenson and Zeke Elliott were able to run all over us for the most, like not terribly, but they together
Yeah.
averaged 5 yards per carry. Ramondre had 98 yards, which I think is his most rushing all season. But I can
Yeah,
double check that.
by a lot, I would assume too.
Yeah. Um,
Stevenson hasn't done anything this year.
yeah, it's been pretty slow for him, but yeah, I'll take it as a win. It's exciting, you know. I guess it's exciting. It's like you don't know how to feel. Like I said, like we only lost 1 spot in the draft order. There's a good chance that we still continue to lose the rest of our games. Like
Yeah, I think yeah, I think you do get to play 2 bad teams in Green Bay and New Orleans. And I say bad sparingly. I guess they're not like record wise. They've had some wins. I look at those teams and
and the
they
Rams too. Like the Rams, I think are very beatable too.
yes, I look at those teams and I go, that's a team that can lose any Sunday, kind of thing.
Yeah,
Even though they've like been able to collect some wins more, but again, you beat Atlanta here and there and other teams, and it's like, no, I get how you get to 5 or 6 wins, but yeah, I think yeah, we'll see what they do if
yeah,
Tyrod comes back.
yeah. And honestly, like earlier when we were, we looked like we were like a lock for a top 3 pick, which I think everybody booked us in for a top 3 pick. I would talk about the quarterbacks, but at this rate, we might be out of like a first round quarterback contention. There's some names that you can get in the middle, but like, is that really what you want? That's the other big news is that Joe Shane was asked, about the quarterback situation. And if you're going to
Right.
draft a quarterback, and he said, Daniel will be our quarterback when he's healthy. But also, what else is he going to say? Especially if he's eyeing a quarterback that he wants to trade up for. You're
True.
not going to be like, no, we're gunning for a top quarterback, like, and show your hand. It's like,
Yeah. Be interesting to know when he'd be healthy next year. And they have
yeah.
an opt out that they can take, I think, in this offseason where, unless I'm wrong, but
Yeah, no, so we can decide, I think the deadline is post the draft where we can decide if we want to cut him and only have him for one more year. So
right.
it would be like a 2-year contract essentially, and then we signed him to those 4 years, but we'd be able to save that money if we decide to move on from him and draft a quarterback this year. So that's why
Yeah.
I'm not opposed. There's people that are like, no, duh, Daniel Jones is like, no, that's not how it works, and I don't think that this regime is married to Daniel Jones anymore at this
Now, I think
time.
even if you liked him a lot, which I
Yeah,
would understand, this injury would be alarming. Like any big injury like that to a
and
quarterback.
he's missed a decent amount of time in his first 4. This is
Yeah.
the year, but he's missed a
Yeah.
decent amount of time too.
He has.
So yeah,
It just shows. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I remember last year Giants had pretty good season, and I was wondering, like, they beat Minnesota, they lose to the Eagles in the second round, and you're sort of like, I was thinking, are they peaking a little too early because expectations going forward is like, all right, you have that great of a year. You go to the second round, you beat Minnesota, the wild card, even though Minnesota was a fraudulent team at that point. There's only
yeah,
one way to go, and I think that we see that the Giants haven't gone that way this year, and it's tough to. I think a lot of it's due to the quarterback play. He played really well last year, but sustaining that level of success is not given for quarterbacks in general. It's certainly not given for a quarterback like Daniel Jones.
yeah. No, it's he hasn't done enough. Where if we're in prime location to draft our future that Joe Shane loves, then
Right.
that's. They were also talking about Evan Neal too, and I think that, like, I don't think we're going to be targeting an offensive tackle either early. I think that we're going to probably give him, like, this is his second year. He's dealt with injuries. I'm
Yeah.
not going to lie. Like, do I want our O line shored up? Yes, but I don't know. I don't know if that's the direction we're going in either. But we'll see, and we'll see. Like, the other thing too is Tyrod might be back next week or the next game because we have a bye. But he's designated to get off IR against the Packers. But and I think that Tyrod is still the better quarterback despite all this jersey juice and all this. But don't you want to see what Tommy DeVito has? Like, if because Tyrod Taylor will probably not be back for the Giants because
Okay.
he's a relatively expensive backup because he's one of the better backups in the league. But he's
Right.
also proved to be very injury prone, which you don't want in your backup.
Which
So
is bad.
maybe you see if Tommy DeVito is somebody that you can at least have as an option as a backup going forward.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for, I'll just tell you this right now. Tommy DeVito's not a backup, not a second string quarterback on any NFL team that wants to be good.
That's
He's
fair.
he's done some good stuff the last few weeks. I'll give him credit for that because there were times where I didn't think he knew how to throw a football or could be
Hey,
competent.
I will say this: more 2 touchdown passes games than Kenny Pickett,
That's true.
and he's by far like touch. I think he has 7 touchdown passes to Bryce Young's 6. Bryce Young's played all but one game, I think, this season. Tommy DeVito has played like 4 and a quarter. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Again,
I
talent.
don't know.
I
Yeah,
think guys have a few more playmakers on offense,
yeah,
especially because the Giants also came. This is the season where they're coming off of a playoff win, and now they're here. So I don't know if we want to play that game with Tommy DeVito, but um, with the third string quarterback now with the NFL, how you're able to dress three, which I do like.
yeah.
Um, I guess he can be the third. I just don't think he's a backup. I think you're in trouble if he's your backup when you when
Yeah,
you start
trust
playing,
me.
when you
Like,
start playing with good teams.
I love this story, but like, you also have to remember like the 2 games that we've played
Right.
prior
And
to
also,
Washington and the Patriots, where he had 3 interceptions in those games,
and
and
also
he had
yeah,
1 game with negative passing yards. I know he only played a half, but like
you scored 10 points too
yeah,
against New England. So,
yeah,
like, that's that says something. And offensively, your numbers weren't overwhelming at all. I don't think you guys got to 300. So, yeah, you'll take the win. But I think we've learned a lot from Devito.
yeah. And you know what? I think that's enough time spent on the Pooper Bowl, so we can move on here to the uh, maybe
Right?
I wouldn't say in-season Super Bowl because I don't even think the Bills are going to make the playoffs at this point, but the best game I would say of the year that I've watched and one of the most exciting in the Bills losing in overtime to the Eagles 34-37 in Philadelphia. Jeremy, take it away, man.
Great win. Um, Great win. It's like those walk off games in baseball where you hit a walk off home run. You don't see it a lot in football because it has to be an OT, most likely the
Mm-hmm.
last second. It's usually off of a kick. It's not a turnover or game winning field goal, which is it's still fun. But there's something about a touchdown at the win in OT to win it. Um, Another game where the Eagles started slowly. And I'll say this being completely honest. That starts solely with Jalen Hurts. It's not the
Yeah.
coordinator Brian Johnson. It's not his players around him. It's not Sirianni. Jalen Hurts needs to start games better. You can't have a 7 QBR in the first half going into the second half. Not good enough. And that's the thing too. Like he was great in the second half. Like he won the game. He
Yeah.
turned into Superman. I love it, and that's what he does too. But like I'm not even asking for like Hurts to be a superstar for 60 minutes. Really hard. You don't need that. You don't need that to win in the NFL. You just can't be 7 QBR in the first 30 minutes bad.
Yeah.
So it's not enough. They weren't play calling. Again, play calling was a little shaky early on. I think this was the one game where, like, you look at Brian Johnson in the first half and you go, step it up a little bit. I thought Kansas City, he was a little shaky, but not awful, really. I think this game, it was a little weird with some of his play calls early on. So that didn't help Jalen. I don't think Jalen really improvised much, though. Um, Early on Sunday morning, they found out Lane Johnson had a groin issue, which sucked. I think that changed the game. He didn't play. Hopefully, he plays San Francisco. Looks like he will, so that's good. But
Yeah. Gonna need
that,
that.
that changed a little bit. I think that they were going to, with Lane Johnson playing against the Bills, their game plan was to throw, throw, throw. I think they would have been very successful. I forget if they changed the game plan or not, but they were a little shook, I think, without Lane Johnson, which makes sense. Jack Driscoll, the backup, looked iffy the first few plays. He
Mhm.
really stepped it up. He had a great game. Now, I don't want him to play going forward, but he stepped up and actually played well. Uh, Another game where took the second half for the Eagles to wake up and get the offense going. They make great adjustments. I mean, both coordinators make absolutely great adjustments every half. Last few weeks, Dallas, KC, and of course the Bills. It would be nice if they could just play better in the first half. You don't have to be great. Again, you don't have to be great. Just like run, do get the ball to like your talented guys like AJ Brown, Devontae Smith early. Get some slants going. It's
Mhm.
tough to cover AJ Brown on slants. Get that going. Like just get the ball out early. And it's something that the Eagles like haven't been really focused on or like doing much like for years. Just like getting the ball quickly, and it's something that's beat them a lot. With quarterbacks like Sam Howell, Dak, and guys like Pat Mahomes last week too. Although he held it a little bit towards the second half, but he was getting it out early in the beginning. Uh, it's a great win. They're down another game where they're down 7 going to halftime. Great response early in the second half with a touchdown. And Jalen Hurts just put together like 3 great tries at the second half to 3 or 4 to give them a win. They go down 3 in OT, and Jalen takes it down the field for a touchdown, which you pay him a lot of money, and he answers the bell, which you love. There's a reason why I think he is uh, the second best quarterback in the NFL. but the MVP of the
Even though, nah, I don't know, he's produced and he's getting the wins, but
NFL.
his stat line has looked ugly this year. Has looked
Yeah, but
pretty,
you
but
can't.
5 touchdowns this game. 5 touchdowns this game.
Right,
2 on the ground, 3 in the air. I
right.
mean, he made it work. He made it work against a tough Bills team and ended up putting up. I mean, he was responsible for every single touchdown in this game.
Yes.
Yeah, like
Yeah, I'm not
he
that
operated the offense well.
I'm not that concerned about the stat line per se because I think that stats don't tell all the stories. I think you look at a game where you go, okay, they were only able to throw the ball for 200 yards, but they moved it on the ground. They still were able to air it out 3 times, and he also was able to run 2 and 1 for being the game winner too. So
Yeah,
I think if anything, the stat line just shows like this is Jalen Hurts at his best. When he can be a threat throwing the ball, when he can be a threat running. We haven't seen the runners much this year because of injuries and wanting to protect him long future. He is a threat with the ball in his hands, period. This was one of those games, and putting 37 points ultimately on the board just shows why the Eagles are the number 1 scoring offense in the NFL and the number 5 offense in total offense, I believe. Or number 1 offense in points scored. Yeah, I think it's so.
yeah.
Jake Elliott, big 60-yarder in that weather. I don't know how many kickers can make that kind of kick in that weather.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Okay, like that. We'll talk about. You remember we brought it up on this show.
yes,
It was I had no doubt, even with that rain, after seeing him beat the Giants in your first Super Bowl you run, where you won the
that's
Super
right.
Bowl, your last Super Bowl with Nick Foles. That was early on in the season, and for the game winner, 60. I think it was like a 65-yarder for Jake
Yeah,
Elliott,
something like
and
that.
the entire bar was chanting "fuck you" at me. And Jeremy was there, like, sorry, I barely know him. He's just a
Yeah,
Giants fan. But
yeah.
yeah, it was, yeah, it fucking sucked, dude. But
That was a
dude,
fun
Jake
time.
Elliott, man, like, respect,
Yeah,
respect to him. Like that's like
yeah.
special
It
teams
makes
player of the year right there. Like
no
getting
doubt.
that kick under those circumstances in that weather. I mean,
Yep.
that's unbelievable, man.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because at that point there were still 20 seconds left on the clock. Bills didn't really have many timeouts going. They sort of just settled for OT. In ways, it felt
They
like
iced him, right?
they
They
iced them
wasted a
once.
timeout on the icing, which, like,
Right.
I mean, these 20 seconds, yeah, you could do something, especially with Josh Allen's arm and 2 timeouts. But
The only thing is with
I,
icing now,
I
it's like if
understood
I'm
it.
a kicker, I'm going to expect to get ice.
Yeah,
If you really want to ice him, just try not calling don't call the timeout and have them like kick it.
yeah,
But I don't know. I think yeah, he's been. It makes it when you have a great kicker, and you're a great team. They go hand in hand, and he has absolutely been the special teams player of the year in the NFL and has helped the Eagles mightily. And that was a prime example of things could have gone south. Obviously, if that kick doesn't go through, and he measured it perfectly.
yeah. I think some some interesting, like, just little, like, tidbits in this game. Brandon
Yeah.
Graham, when on the kick, he's like, doesn't matter, doesn't
Yes.
matter. In the overtime, when they won the ball and the
Yeah.
Bills won it, said doesn't matter, we'll win it.
Love
The other
that.
thing on that last drive
Yes.
where Jason Kelsey had to take a poop and was flinching because he had to poop so bad. Which
Yes.
I don't know. Has he admitted to that yet? I feel like
It's a good question. I think the second one actually helped the Eagles in some ways because it looked like the play was one of those QB sneaks.
mhm.
So if they didn't get it, this was at the end of regulation, correct?
End of regulation. Yeah,
Right. If they didn't get it, they would have had to run out the kicking team with the
yeah,
clock going. It would have been tough to even get the kickoff, yet alone measure it, et cetera. So that might have even helped the Eagles, which is interesting. I'm
yeah.
not sure what the flinching thing. I don't know.
Well, he had
That's
to go to the bathroom in between the regulation, so I mean, it kind of
yeah,
put two and
maybe,
two together, dude.
maybe. I thought the first call with the flinch was a little sus.
Me
I
too.
thought,
I watched both of it, and nothing like really stood out
yeah, I
like
think
terribly.
I think the second one, since they had an eye on it, maybe, but like I don't know. I thought it was weird. I guess the second one kind of helped the Eagles, but I thought they were weird plays. Uh, yeah, you can't, definitely hurt them in a way though. You can't keep moving the ball back when you need, you're trying to get into field goal range, and everything's going pretty well. Ultimately, they're running 2 minute offense, and they're getting out of bounds. They're moving the ball forward, and then you had a few of those. You're like, ugh, this is going to be tough for Jake Elliott, but was able to get it through.
Sorry, I wanted to just check something up too. But yeah, and also that AJ Brown catch that was a fumble.
Oh, you mean
That
drop?
you disagree,
I
but I
totally disagree. I'm not
uh
even trying to be biased, but go ahead.
no, I mean I because I've seen it a million times. It's like two catches, but he did you like you said he didn't have full
You need
control of the ball.
control, right?
But I don't know.
It would have. I'll
He
be
lucked
honest.
out there.
If he
Yeah,
didn't have control, and obviously that's the game, and it's scary because like when you see control, you know it, and at first I'm like, oh my god, call hike because it kind of looked like a catch,
yeah,
and then you go through a replay and you go, yeah, he never really had possession. He made a few moves, but oddly enough, the probably the easiest move for him to have done would have been possession, and he wasn't able to secure it. They
yeah.
called up New York. New York took a look at it for 3 seconds and then said play on. So
Well, the initial
yeah,
call was an incomplete pass, and that's the
right.
thing. I think if it was a catch and a fumble, it was that close where it might not have
The
been
only
reversed.
thing, if they thought that it was worth looking at, this is where I kind of disagree. I think if they thought it was worth looking at, New York would not have confirmed. They said, it's under review, and then they said like 5 seconds later, not literally, but like 15 to
Yeah,
20 seconds later, call is confirmed, or stands, or what, I forget the wordage they use. And I think that if they really want to take a look at it, they would have. To me, it didn't look like he had. To me, it didn't even look like he was close to having possession, which was weird because it seemed like he had a jump on the play.
mm,
But it's timing is everything in the NFL in more ways than one, and he it was closer of a situation than it probably had to have been or should have been. But yeah, I definitely think he didn't have possession from the start, and I think the replay showed that pretty clearly, in my opinion.
I wanted to pull up because this was definitely Jalen Hurts' best rushing game of the season. He did break out 72 yards against the Rams earlier, but 65
Yeah,
yards and two rushing touchdowns. And I think only one of those was a tush push because that game winner was like a beautiful run.
yeah, it was like a 12-yarder. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's he ran really well on Sunday afternoon, which felt like a night game because 4:30 in Philadelphia that day, it was just raining a lot and it was just pitch black essentially. So wait,
yeah,
at the end of the game, it's like 8 p.m. You feel like it's 11:30, like a Sunday night or Monday night game. But
yeah. It's weird being on the East Coast. I was on the
yeah,
East Coast for those games, and I was like, man, I am tired. Like at
yeah,
the end of
I
like
was
the
same way.
afternoon games, man. Like,
Same
yeah,
way. Yeah, it was exhausting. But yeah, he ran well. He ran well against the Rams too. But this was a game where they needed his feet, especially because on the other side, Josh Allen had
was their leading back. Yeah,
it seemed like he returned to the Josh Allen of old because the Eagles make everybody who's struggling into the superstar that they once were,
yeah.
and he had a great game too. But and
Yeah,
he's
two
all
touchdowns on the ground too, and two in the
yeah,
air.
yeah.
So
So um, it was nice that Jalen could use his feet, and it made a difference
hmm.
at the
Uh,
end.
yeah, and also like I mean, the Bills had so many little mistakes too. The Gabe Davis should have had a touchdown and ran the wrong route.
Yeah, that was
Uh,
brutal. My God, they're
yeah,
not wrong about
there was
that.
just like it's tough, especially if you're a Bills fan. This has to be very very defeating. But
They've had a lot of defeating losses this year. They need.
yeah,
I yeah. I. They had some injuries on defense, but uh, they don't really have a run game at all, except their run game
I
with
mean
Goff. Their run
James
game
Cook
with
has
Goff.
been good.
Yeah, I think they need.
Where's Leonard Fournette? Is he that bad?
I,
Like they signed him. I guess he's still on the practice squad.
I can't say that I've been looking into their how their situation is with Leonard Fournette. I
Yeah,
assume it's very tough to sign a guy who has been working out on his own during the season, not
hmm
in game speed, shape kind of thing.
yeah,
Yeah, I think it's tough.
yeah. It's just playoff Lenny. If they get there, which I've said numerous times, it
They have the
doesn't seem.
hardest schedule, I think, going forward too.
Yeah, so this is tough. But as Temple people, I feel like we have to acknowledge the Temple matchup
Yes,
between Deion Dawkins and Hassan Reddick.
that's right.
I saw PJ Walker was the one who posted it, which I thought was
Funny.
funny. Yeah, but and PJ Walker even got to play last week too. So this is just a Temple week in the NFL.
Yeah, it looked like Hassan had 2 sacks on Deion Dawkins. I think if I'm correct, maybe I'm wrong.
Actually, no, Hassan no sacks. I'm sure he probably had a few QB hits, but no sacks
Oh,
registered. Actually,
interesting.
the only sack you guys had was Brandon Graham. Actually,
Oh yeah, that's true. Interesting. Yeah, the Eagles had a lot of opportunities. They don't wrap up people well.
yeah,
John
I
Brown.
feel like you guys have that pass rush,
Yeah, the
but
pressure's there. They don't. Josh Allen's also just tough to bring down too with his
oh
size,
yeah,
but no excuse. They have to get better at that. They have to wrap up guys and bring them down. There were a few times where they didn't, and then the Buffalo was able to make a play off of it, which is devastating.
yeah, it's but you know what? You guys have gotten that space too with the Lions losing. So what? Now the Lions have 3 losses
That's right.
as well. So you guys have a 2-game lead for the number 1 seed.
Yep.
Obviously, that changes going into next week if you guys lose against the 49ers, who also have 3 losses.
Yes.
But
They'll still, I guess the nice thing is they'll still be up a game if they were to lose,
yeah,
regardless. Which I guess is nice in this part of the year, but a win would be a lot better to say the least.
yeah. Do you want to? Are you ready? Are you ready to get into? I feel like we've covered
Yeah.
the majority of this now. So I believe. Well, the first game coming up is the Cowboys. Another Thursday night game. 2 Thursday night games in a
Yes.
row, with the Seahawks going to Dallas for Thursday night football. The Seahawks just got wrecked by the 49ers, also on Thursday. So they both have like a nice week break. They don't get that extra advantage from playing on Thursday. But yeah, the Seahawks, who have played decent this season, but like
Better better
I'm
than the
looking
beginning.
I'm looking through this. Like, yeah, they opened up the season beating the Chiefs, but other than that, like they really haven't put up that many dominant. Like they got blown out by the Ravens 37-3.
Yep.
They only beat the Cardinals by 10. They did beat the Giants, which is interesting, and they beat the Lions 37-31. But the Lions too, like they're these are
That
all
was earlier
teams
this
that
year.
they have beat. That it's just like I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, the Seahawks didn't beat. Sorry, the Seahawks didn't beat the Chiefs week 1. That was the Lions. What am I saying?
But the
Um,
Seahawks then the next week beat the
beat the
Lions in
Lions.
Detroit, right?
Yeah, yeah. So that was probably their most impressive win, though. I mean, other
Yeah.
than that, like they really haven't put up anything. Um, and like we said, the funny game, the stat that the Cowboys haven't beat anybody with a winning record, and even though the Seahawks are at 500, if they lose, they would also have a losing record. So,
Right.
what do you see? What do you see in this game, Jeremy?
I would like to see them I would like to see Seattle go in there and win. And obviously, of course, I'd like to see that. I think that they could, in a sense, if Gino is very accurate and their offense is just flowing with Metcalf, Lockett, Jackson, and Jigma Smith has been a little productive more each week, it seems, the last few weeks.
Yeah,
And then with Kenneth Walker.
which I don't know if he'll be back because I know he was out. I know it was Charbonnet.
Right. And then with
Supposedly.
Charbonnet, at least knowing he'll be going in. It seems like it's enough talent. And who's their tight end? Is it
Is it Will Disley still? I don't know. I'm.
Noah Fant? Maybe
Oh,
I
it is Noah Fant. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
It is Noah Fant.
Uh, Offensively, I would think they could be competitive. They just haven't looked that good recently, and I think I have to go Dallas in this game.
Yeah.
31 23. Nah, 31-20. Let's go with that.
All right. All right. 31-20. I can see that. Kind of like
33-20. 33-20.
I want to see Seattle do well, except they've also struggled with really good defenses, like I said, with the Rams
Yeah.
and with the 49ers.
Gino is.
So I don't see them getting more than 20 points, honestly, in this game,
Yep. That's sort of
unless they're able to turn something around.
get a
So
turnover in the red zone would be nice.
yeah, which I mean, they do have they have ball hawks themselves with Tariq Woolen and Devon Witherspoon, and
Yes.
even Jamal Adams too. But I would say I'm gonna go Cowboys. I'm gonna say Cowboys 27, Seahawks 17.
Okay.
I'll give them 10 points.
Two score
Um,
game. We're both in that range.
I think I don't know. I feel like at this point, I think a bold prediction for Deron Bland to have another interception is almost like a given. And I think, and I feel like Dan Quinn is scheming him up. If you saw the way Dan Quinn reacted to that pick six, like as it was going on, I feel like he's trying to put him in position for that.
Oh,
So you
yeah.
know,
I'll comment on that too if I can.
yeah,
You're up
continue.
55 points, Dan Quinn. Give me a break. Oh, my God.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. You should, act like you've been there before. I don't know if this is angry man, get off my lawn, but,
I don't know if you watch your player break NFL history. That is kind of coming from yeah, he had a pretty decent rookie year, but stepping into becoming a starting cornerback. I feel
yeah,
like that's exciting. That's
no
exciting.
doubt. But it's such a subjective, NFL history kind of stat in my. It's just it's weird. I don't know. It's not something that sticks out like, oh wow, that's amazing. It's impressive, but I don't know. It's not like a quarterback throwing for 5,500 or 6,000 yards in a season.
Yeah, but I mean, this is also something that you don't know when this is going to be broken. This seems like, you know, this seems like something that will stand for quite a long time. I think the last time somebody had 5 interceptions was like in the 80s, right, or the 90s.
What pick sixes?
Yeah, five,
Yeah,
six, sixes.
maybe.
Yeah,
Again, yeah, it's yeah. All right, yeah.
it's exciting. You just I get it. Trust me.
I just hate Dallas, but I don't know. It's someone has to agree with me. Someone in this world has to agree with me. It's such a weird stat. If it
dude.
really,
But if you see the pick sixes, one of them was 99 yards against the Giants too. Like that last one was what 63 or 66, whatever. And the one against the Commanders, I think what a couple weeks back
yes,
was nuts too.
you've mentioned a lot of bad teams too in Carolina. Well, the Carolina
Yeah.
one I thought was the most impressive. The diving one that he returned. Remember that one?
Yeah, that was it. That was the one that
That
I
was
meant to
yeah,
say.
that
This
was
is
impressive.
trying to
But
say this last.
I don't really to beat a dead horse, but let's do this against good teams and let's have it be when the team isn't up 24 already with 4 minutes to play. But
It's fair. It's
yeah,
fair. It's fair. I will. So yeah, I'm just gonna let's just pump these out. I think you know what? I think they're trying to continue the Dak narrative. I feel like Dak is going to throw for 3 touchdowns. Um, and I go Deron Bland interception. I'm going to go pick six. I'm not going to go pick six. You know what? I'll go pick six. I'll go double bold. All right, two good bold predictions for these Cowboys. Unless you have a bad one you want to throw in there.
trying to think. Uh, ay, I think Pollard will have over 100 yards on the ground.
Okay.
I don't know why. There's nothing strategic
Because
about
Leonard
it.
Williams is there too. Leonard Williams is there.
Yeah,
They stacked up that D line
I'll
pretty
go.
well.
Yeah, I don't love that. I'll go with that, and I'll also say uh, Gino throws at least 2 interceptions, and there could easily be a third.
Okay, okay, and maybe it's Drew Lock. Who knows?
Yes. Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
well. I'll play. Yeah. Seahawks combined for 3. Yeah. There you go.
okay, I like it.
Definitely 2. I definitely think 2.
Okay, I think that's enough for the Giants are on a bye. The next game coming up would be the Dolphins at FedEx playing the Commanders. That's 1 p.m. Eastern.
Uh huh.
And as we've mentioned a few times this podcast too, is that the Dolphins like to beat bad teams. So
Yes.
this could help for you Commanders fans looking to continue to tank. The Dolphins have probably the most explosive offense in the NFL. Definitely the most explosive offense in the NFL. Playing against probably the worst defense in the NFL right now. Which
Yep.
I don't. Even with Jack Del Rio out, like you guys have less than a week with whoever you guys have promoted, which is escaping me right now, to defensive coordinator. But I don't really have that much faith. I could see this game going. Let's see. And the thing is, too, is that the Dolphins' defense is like interception magnets. And Sam Howell, even though he
That's
only threw one against the Cowboys, like I could see their defense eating on Sam Howell. Jalen Phillips is out for the year, which sucks for the
right.
Miami Dolphins.
Yep.
I'm going to go Dolphins 37, Commanders 14.
I'll
This is
say 30, 31-13 or 34-13 Dolphins. This is a point you mentioned it, but this is a point I'd add.
yeah,
Uh, Howell's going to have to go against Jalen Ramsey, Holland, and uh, Xavier Howard.
yeah.
They also have Christian Wilkins for the D line. And
He's been pretty
Washington
well.
line isn't that good.
Mm.
I think they have a few guys in the middle of the field too. So yeah, I don't see Washington winning this game.
Yeah,
I see, and more importantly, I see House struggling against a good defense, which seems to be the theme for him this year. Besides, I guess the Eagles, who technically have a good defense.
yeah, and the Dolphins have a phenomenal defense. I think I've mentioned this a bunch of times. Sam Howell throws either 44 or 45 times a game. I don't see that changing this game because I feel like he's going to be trying to keep up with this Dolphins offense, which is going to just exploit this defense. I don't see the Dolphins scoring less than 30 points this game. I don't.
Yeah, the only reason if I do is if like Washington is able to bleed a lot of clock and maybe they make Dolphins make some mistakes here and there. But I have similar thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Sam Howell's still going to throw for 300 yards. He's going to continue that streak and probably throw for at least 44 attempts.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think he's going to throw for 300. Um,
I
I think
think.
my
I mean, he just hit 300 against the Cowboys too. But I think he'll just because that's how the game plan's been. Bieniemy is still there. I feel like he's going to be relying on that arm. So I'm gonna continue with the 300. But your take?
my big take will be he won't throw for over 239 and a half yards. It'll be under
Okay.
that.
Oh, okay. So with I believe one of the top two or number one, because honestly I should probably look that up right now
Yeah,
for the passing leaders. But my second is that I think that Curtis Samuel will continue to be the leading receiver. I think that Curtis Samuel is just, especially in this against this defense, I'm going to go Curtis Samuel with 80 all-purpose yards, which isn't even that bold, but I'll go Curtis Samuel 80 all-purpose
my
yards because
second,
he runs the ball too, and I feel like they're going to get tricky with it.
yeah, my second one is kind of related to my first one. I could, and this is bold, I could see Hal throwing for 180, 195 yards.
Yeah, it
Against
is.
because if
Sam
nothing,
Howell is still the leader, by the way, with
right,
3,339
if nothing's
yards.
working for the offense against Miami, it's going to be because of throwing the ball, and I think that they could really get shut out, and he can only throw for 180 to 195 too.
Yeah. Okay. I could see that. I could see it. But yeah. And you gave your prediction. Your bold, your second bold prediction, or you just had the one?
Well, the first one was under 240,
Yep.
and the second one was, I'll expand it and say, I think it really could be under 185.
Oh, okay. So that's how bold you're gonna get. You're gonna get.
Kind of, yeah,
This is me being bold, but this is as bold. Okay. I
yeah.
like it. I like it. As somebody who has Brian Robinson on my fantasy team, do you play him?
Depends on who else you got. Looking at
Right now it's I got Josh Jacobs on the bye. It's Jalen Warren, Roshan Johnson, and Brian Robinson. You have to play Brian
Warren's
Robinson.
tough. I wish he got one more carries, and every time Najee has a touchdown, I feel like it kills Warren. But yeah, I think I'd still go B Rob, but I don't know.
I gotta do shit. Yeah, with Josh, it's tough, but
It is
I don't know.
so
Brian Robinson has still been like he's been able to find the end zone often this year.
yes.
Um, although he didn't last game, but
Yeah.
I
What are
digress.
you gonna do?
But the best game of this uh, of this upcoming week, another mid slate. The
Yes.
49ers go to Philadelphia at 4:25 Eastern time. Jeremy, I will let you begin with this.
Well, this is
What are
going
you
to be
picking?
this is a tough game, ladies and gentlemen. I don't want to be biased. I want to be fair. I try to be as fair as I can. Obviously, you have two great teams. It's in Philadelphia. The line after the Eagles game opened up at San Francisco -2. And I think it's jumped up to San Francisco -3. This is probably a game where I would have picked San Francisco. But my golly, damn it, I can't. I'm going with the Eagles. Big game. I'll tell you what, if the Eagles do pull this one out, I think they lose to Dallas in Dallas the next week. Dallas will also have kind of like a mini bye because Thursday night this week. I
Yeah.
think the Eagles pull it out. I think they show why they're just better than San Francisco, like they were last year, like I think they are this year. I think the Eagles pull it out. It's going to be tight. 24-23 Eagles. 1 point game.
Okay. I like that score. I like
Thank
that
you.
score.
Thank you.
Dude, I'm almost thinking it. Okay. The 49ers are, I think it's worth saying, the 49ers are pissed off because
Yeah.
of last year in the
Yes.
playoffs where they lost Brock Purdy and they got
A lot of
knocked off of the
crybaby.
playoffs. They're saying what
Yeah.
could have been. They're whiners. A.J. Brown is throwing all the Eagles fans at Debo Samuel. He's
I
saying,
like that.
you have permission.
Yeah.
He's sending the dogs out on Debo Samuel. Not that, like, Debo can't handle that. But I think this is another overtime game. I really hope so. After seeing what we saw last week,
Yeah,
I
it
think
will be something.
it's going to be 27-30 with
Yeah.
oh man, because I'm feeling closeness here. I'm gonna go with the Eagles. I just think the Eagles at home.
Uh-huh.
I like the 49ers with Trent Williams and Debo Samuel in the lineup have looked like unbeatable. Without them, they looked pretty rough. The Eagles have played sloppy games throughout this year, but have one loss to the Jets.
Right.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it to the Eagles. The Eagles at home too. Like I know you guys had to play the Chiefs. Like in your little, you guys went Cowboys sandwich with in between that Cowboys sandwich, Chiefs, Bills, and Eagles. But you got to be at home against the Bills or Chiefs, Bills, and 49ers. But you have
Right.
two home games. You know, like that's definitely in your favor.
I think
But
that helps. I do think that helps.
yeah,
Yeah. if this game were in San Francisco, it would be different. Nonetheless, it's East to West games are tough for the East.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So yeah, I'm glad it's in Philly. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go bold predictions. I think that AJ Brown finally gets back to form because he was like also on pace with Tyreek Hill, I believe, to have 2,000 yards this year, and then he
Yeah,
had like two awful receiving games. I think AJ Brown's in a diva a little bit here, maybe throughout the week, and he's gonna ask to get the ball back. And I say AJ Brown breaks 100 again, scores again, and I think that being as close as this game's going to be, I feel like it's going to be fighting with like a lot of 4 down territory. I say 4 successful tush pushes this game for either first downs or touchdowns.
interesting. I want to look up his numbers, but part of my prediction, I don't know how you necessarily measure it. I think Christian McCaffrey will have
His worst yards from
one of,
scrimmage.
yeah, that's what I want to say. But now looking at like Cleveland, and he only had 11 carries for 43 yards. Dallas 19 for 51. I think they might have pulled him because they were up. Uh,
Yeah.
I think let's just say I think the Eagles keep McCaffrey under 70 yards on the ground.
Just on the ground.
Just on the ground, and to piggyback to same prediction,
Yeah.
under 105 yards altogether.
Okay.
I don't know how bold that is. 100,
I think under 100 scrimmage yards for McCaffrey is
under
bold.
100. We'll stick with 100.
Yeah. You really wanted that extra 5, dude. I will be.
Yeah, I'm trying.
It'll
to
be
be
hilarious if he
I'm
has
trying
like
to get like
103
I'm trying to
scrimmage
do the
yards.
4.5 be creative, but yeah, we'll go under 100. So.
Yeah. Oh, this is just a 0.5. Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I think this has the potential to. I like this is the must win. I feel like to secure that number 1 seed by far. Other than that, like
It could be big. I think.
I mean, moving forward, Cowboys next week, like you said, in Dallas is going to be very big.
Yeah, I
But
think. Yeah, I think San Francisco. This is definitely must win for any 1 seed chance. I think the Eagles could still get the 1 seed with losing this game, but it would help mightily. So yeah,
yeah, because especially if you guys do lose this one and then lose to Dallas, like then you guys are in.
it's tough. That's why
Then you're in jeopardy of losing the division. So like
That's
this is swinging
makes
a lot on the line.
it makes it interesting. That's why I've always said, if you could tell me you'll take San Francisco, lose to Dallas, I'll shake right now and say deal.
All right.
Not that
All
I
right.
want to. And then maybe in the deal, Seattle could get a dub against Dallas this week. But we're looking ahead of ourselves.
Yeah. What if you win to both, but then you lose to the Giants twice? How'd you feel about that?
I mean, I'd feel awful, but reality would have to be
Swing in a
reversed,
direction.
thrown, smashed to oblivion and non-existent. So yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, another great week. Giants have the bye, so for me,
Yeah.
I get to just enjoy. I don't have to worry about us winning and losing a draft position or losing and kicking us farther out of the playoff race that I don't think we should be in the first place. But yeah, it's an exciting week. We have some good games. We have some less exciting games, but we'll see. Hopefully, you guys have made it this far and have enjoyed it. But thank you guys for watching. Jeremy, any final words for the audience?
I like to apologize for the last 40 minutes. It might have been a little dark on my end. I didn't realize it. It's the East Coast, ladies and gentlemen. It's 5:08 right now. It gets dark really early after daylight saving.
I'll try to brighten it up in the post production.
Oh, I appreciate that, but don't knock yourself out.
That's all right.
Lesson learned. It's 5:08. It was 4:45 and it was dark here. So let me tell you guys, it's daylight saving. Let's get rid of it. The state of Arizona, I think, did. It's cold. It's dark early. I mean, that's just awful. I love this time of the year, obviously for holiday reasons, but My goodness, let's. It's 4:45. Let's give ourselves a little bit more daylight.
No, I agree. I agree. And if anybody want to get Jeremy some lights or pay his lighting bill for Christmas, it's coming up,
That's
or
fair.
Hanukkah, or either or.
Yeah,
But
Pico. Yeah, any build towards Pico. Not this is going off the rails, but like my room itself, it
mhm.
doesn't have like a light bulb like the spot for it. So like lighting's tough in there. Here there are. So like there's no excuse for what happened today. But uh yeah, lighting has been interesting for me nonetheless.
All right. Well, thank you guys again. Again, we are the Beasts of the NFC East podcast, and we will see you later. All right, Beasts of the NFC East. Peace.
See ya.
See ya.